This episode is all about identity. Who are you? Are you living as your truest self, or are you living as the version of yourself you're willing to share with the world? Are you hiding your uniqueness because you're afraid of standing out? Because you're afraid of feeling alone? How can you rediscover yourself and bring yourself back to life? What is your identity?
TrailblazHER podcast aims to blaze the trail of growth, empowerment, and self-love for women and beyond. Together, we will look through the eyes of a modern woman and address the challenges we must overcome to live our best lives. Are you ready to hear what you need to hear? Are you ready to become the best version of yourself? Keep listening for some life-changing inspiration.
Thanks for tuning in. We're so happy that you're here. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook. We are at TrailblazHER Podcast. You're always welcome to slide into our DMs or send us an email at trailblazherpodcast@gmail.com. Your feedback is always appreciated. And let us know what worked for you or any tips and tricks that you have so we can share and grow together. Identity.
Des, we're talking about identity today. What a great topic.
Yes.
I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts last week, and they talked all about reprogramming your subconscious mind by shifting your identity. It was from Jim Fortin's podcast, Transform Your Life from the Inside Out, and he was actually interviewing one of my other favorite podcasters, James Wedmore, and I believe it was episode 114. So some of what we're talking about today is what I learned from that podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, I have been, apparently identity is a hot topic lately. Yeah, and I've also been just happening across these. I swear we all arrived at this independently, but
Right.
now it's something we're all talking about. So for us, I feel like the last two episodes really fed into this topic because we talk about our self-worth and comparing ourselves and only showing some parts of ourselves and being afraid to, expose who we really are because we're afraid of rejection and loneliness. And it feeds into us living a life where we might not be acting as ourselves. We might be acting as just a version of ourselves. So that is how we kind of came across identity. But I'm definitely using influence from the Rise podcast with Rachel Hollis that I listened to an episode of her most recent episode where she has on Jay Shetty, who I know is a podcaster that you love as well.
Yes, I love Jay Shetty.
Yeah, so they just had a really golden episode. So I'm definitely drawing some influence from that, and I will be quoting some things directly from that. And okay. I also listened to a podcast recently on the Almost 30 podcast where they talk about identity and kind of how we might lose ourselves in things that we do external.
Yeah, okay. Dude,
so let's do it.
Let's get into it. I'm so excited. I feel like this is going to be such a fun episode, fun thing to talk about today.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to feel all types of naked and raw and just like
all types of vulnerable.
Exposed and vulnerable. Buckle up, everybody.
Apparently, being vulnerable is how you build deeper relationships. So why not, right?
Right. Why not? Let's go.
We're gonna do it. Okay. Well, let me start off by giving you a visual. Describing a tool that you can use to better understand either your current identity, if you're trying to figure out who you really are in this current moment, or you could use this tool to create a plan to reprogram your identity. So I want you to first visualize a triangle that is pointing upwards. So you've got the flat part on the bottom and there's a top, a point at the top.
Like a pyramid.
Like
a food pyramid.
Exactly. There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, the foundation of the triangle is going to be the biggest section of the triangle. And if you split if you, okay, visualize this triangle, this pyramid, and split the pyramid into 5 different sections, okay? The foundation of the triangle is going to be your identity. It's the biggest part of the triangle. And as you move one level up, you get to your beliefs or your values. And then you move one level after that, and you get to your capabilities. And then you get to your behaviors above that. And then finally, environment is the smallest part of the triangle at the very top of the pyramid. So basically, it just represents that in order to identify your identity, you have to start by looking at your environment and then moving down to look at your behaviors and then capabilities, beliefs, and then after you have determined those other 4 things, working from the top down, you finally get to your identity, and you can finally solidify who you really are at the end of the day, or underneath it all. And then vice versa, if you want to change something about yourself, change something about your identity, you have to start by creating that identity at the very bottom. You have to create a foundation, and then you have to work your way up. You have to then build beliefs, and then build capabilities, then start new behaviors, and then change your environment. So it's just a helpful tool that you can use when you're, again, either trying to determine who you are in this current moment or change something about your identity in this current moment.
I love it. And I think you can, we'll post an image of this pyramid on our socials so you can just have a good visual for everything we're going to be talking about in here.
Absolutely. So let's say you are wanting to change a part of your identity. As I said before, you have to start with the foundation. You have to start with a shift in your current identity. So as an example, people who smoke cigarettes every day oftentimes have a really hard time quitting. You know, smoking cigarettes or cigarettes, tobacco, it's very addictive, and it's a bad habit that people fall into. And the reason why these people have such a hard time smoking cigarettes is because being a smoker is part of their identity. It's a part of their foundation. And vice versa, this is also why people who don't smoke cigarettes every day don't wake up one day and just say, hey, I'm going to start smoking cigarettes. And they just go buy a pack of cigarettes and start smoking them. Being a smoker is not part of their identity. So your behaviors are not going to reflect your identity unless your identity is your identity. And that might have been a little confusing, but
I think I get it though. And I think a lot of people start smoking because they're influenced by a friend, or they're just genuinely curious. Your identity might be that you're a curious person. So that kind of would explain how your identity could influence whether or not you're going to engage in this behavior or not.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now, if you're trying to figure out who you are or what your identity is and you're having trouble, I suggest asking yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, who would I be if I already had blank? And you're going to insert that blank is going to represent what you want out of life. So who would I be if I already had my dream job, for example? Second question is, the second question is, what would I do if I already had my dream job? And last, how would I feel if I already had my dream job? Now, I want you to take a piece of paper and answer those questions honestly. Write them down. And when you know the answers, you can begin being, doing, and feeling the things you want to identify with. And when you master that, which does not happen overnight, you begin to change your beliefs about yourself, and eventually you begin to move up that triangle. Now, in order to do, be, and have these feelings of who you want to identify with, or how you want to identify, you can start to do some processes like visualization or maybe illustration. You can create you can draw what this might look like to you. You can do vision boards. I know Des and I, we love Pinterest. So Pinterest helps you visualize the things that you want. So
I love this.
Yeah.
I love that this starts, it kind of works the process backwards. You got to start with the end in mind, right? And I think so many of us, we kind of feel like we can't be a true version of ourselves. We have to earn it. So, and I know I felt this way before, where I think, okay, I can't expose to people who I really am because of my profession. Now, someday maybe I'll be a podcaster like Joe Rogan, and he gets to be truly 100% himself. He can smoke weed right there while he's doing his job, and people don't give a fuck because he's Joe Rogan and he's earned that right. And I feel like sometimes for me, I feel like I have to earn being myself. Like, okay, once I'm rich, then I can truly show who I am and be who I am, because no one can have any control over my life. But it's so crazy that sometimes we're all waiting for a certain circumstance or something to happen, or like our life to take a certain turn before we can be real. And that's what I'm trying to get out of. I think it needs to be the other way around. First, we're real, and then that will help us get to our ultimate end goal. And so I like how when you ask these questions, you're just saying like, okay, now that I do have my dream job, what does my life look like? Who am I? What do I do on the day to day? What are my interests?
Right.
What are my values? And that person's who you really are. You're just holding back and waiting for some circumstance to allow for it. And that's so silly. Why? You know?
Yeah, we don't realize that we can literally create the life we want right now in the current moment. And by doing that and identifying what we want and who we want to be and how we want to feel right now will create the pathway to what you want. Mm-hmm. That much easier. So
we have more power than we know.
Yeah, that's what this helps you do.
We really do. We just suppress it so much. And we have all this control over our lives that we never knew we had, that we can control the way that we live and the things that we do, even within the constraints that we have, like how much money we have, right? Even within those constraints, you can choose to live a happy, fulfilled life. We just don't know that we have that power. And so now that we're figuring it out, it's time to harness it, right? So yes, use this as a tool for what you've been holding yourself back on being, and start now.
Start now, yeah.
Start now. Call 1-800-START-NOW to begin your journey.
I love that.
For 4 monthly payments of $39.99, you can become your truest self.
Ooh, there we go. Trailblazer business initiative there.
Call 1-800, who the fuck am I?
Oh, gosh. Now, another thing that I learned from this podcast is you are where your attention is. So, for example, number one, which we talked about this a lot in our last episode, if you're focused on what others think of you, you will always perceive yourself to be like the version that others think you are. You will find yourself in a never-ending cycle of trying to figure out who you are, because you are creating a story in your mind based on what others may or may not think about you. In the last episode, like I said, we spoke about how we literally invent our narrative from the eyes of other people. You'll never begin to identify your identity if you're always focused on what others think of you.
Exactly. You're constraining yourself and living within the lens of other people instead of who you actually want to be. And the craziest thing about it, as we talked about, is we are inventing what those people think of us. And so if they, just a reminder, if they haven't come out to your face and said like, I think you're incapable, but you're telling yourself that they think that, you're literally just making that up and putting that limitation on yourself when it probably doesn't exist. So that is just the realest shit to get behind right now.
Super real. And it happens even when we don't even know it's happening. It's just how we're programmed, you know, like with the availability of looking at everybody else's life or what somebody else is doing. And also just because just because our culture is so centered around results in producing and success, we look at ourselves in the lens of what success means to us, and we never really stop to diagnose how we feel, or if we like that, if we don't like that. We just push forward because we feel like we have to chase something that everybody else is going after, and you don't really stop to invent your own narrative from your own eyes in your own mind. And like I said, like I started off with, it's so easy to just, it's a trap. It's like you're running on a hamster wheel. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think, we, Julie, an amazing connections that you drew there. And it's like, we've been training for this our whole lives. We've been training for comparing ourselves to others. We've been training for defining success as what the U.S. calls success, mm-hmm. right? The U.S. society is kind of materialism orientated right. and money motivated, and says, that success has to do with what you have.
Yeah.
And do we ever really stop and say, is that success to me? What is success to me? Maybe success to me is just having a house with a big backyard mm-hmm. and a place that brings me joy every time I look out the window.
Yeah.
And sometimes we forget and we tell ourselves like, no, that's not success. I mean, that's not what other people are content with. So why should I be content with that? Mm-hmm. And in doing so, we lose ourselves.
We literally lose ourselves. And then we feel stuck, or we may feel depressed or anxious or nervous or just like lost in general. Like, have you ever felt, but have you ever like woken up one day and you're like, wow, I feel like lost. Like, I feel like I don't know who I am. Do you feel that way ever sometimes?
More so recently that this is coming to light, that I'm realizing like, wait a second, I have been doing so much for others, or because I thought I should, but not because it freaking makes me want to spring out of bed in the morning
right.
out of joy. Right. So yeah, I think I've wondered like, what is my life going to look like? And is that what I want my life to look like? Or is that just what I thought it should look like?
Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm.
in that sense, yes. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely it happens in like seasons of my life. It's not all the time, but it definitely does. I definitely do feel that way. I feel lost sometimes, or like I don't know who I am. And I actually particularly felt like that within the last relationship I had. And I know we're gonna get to relationships, as we talk through the podcast, the episode today. But I remember feeling just a year ago, like, who am I, and why am I with this person? Like, what is this? Like, is this even for me? And that was like a season of my life where I felt that. And then there were different times in college where I knew I wasn't living like true to who I am, where I would end up feeling lost. And one of my brothers and we were talking about this the other day. He's still in college, and he's in his senior year, and he's trying to figure out what he's going to do with the rest of his life. Like that moment every college senior has, they're ending their college career, school's ending, they have they're gaining a degree, but they don't know what they want to do with it yet. And he was like, yeah, I just feel so lost. Like, I just don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And it just got me really thinking, like, we have to feel this way because we're living for other things. We're living for other people. We're, like you said earlier, we're going after what others think is successful, because that's what the freaking American dream is, quote unquote, So
yeah,
it's just crazy. It's crazy. And we literally do it all to ourselves. It's like literally just our minds.
Yeah, we are the ones that we're choosing to hold ourselves back. We are saying, I'm afraid if I go on my own path that other people won't see me as successful, or that I won't consider myself successful because it doesn't align with the American dream, or that, how could I possibly be happy if this is what made people happy? Then wouldn't everybody be doing it? But we're all just so afraid to just be real and follow what we want to do. And I think also a lot of it is just that we need to uncover what brings us joy. We don't pay enough attention to what really lights up our heart and makes us passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to get into this later, but it just fits in so well right now.
Yeah.
One of the things that Jay Shetty talked about when he was on Rachel Hollis's Rise podcast last week was the things that you value are the things that are on your bank statement and are on your schedule. The things where you're spending your money and spending your time, those are the things that really matter to you. So if you spend all your time and money on travel, maybe traveling is what brings you passion, and you need to find a way to make that the integral, in your life. It needs to be an integral part of your life. And maybe if you spend all your money on fashion and makeup, like maybe you need to find a way to ensure that's an integral part of your daily life. Pay attention to where you're actually spending your money and spending your time, because you can say like, oh, it's this because you think it's that, or that you want it to be that, so you're almost trying to manifest it because you think it should be. But what really lights up your heart is what makes you who you are.
Dude, that's so powerful. The thing Jay Shetty said, you are where and how, where you spend your money and or how you spend your time.
Exactly.
Dude, so true. Oh my gosh. And then I think, that must be why people like you and I, who we really, take pride in our work. We take pride in our positions. We want to do well for our organizations. We want to see results. We want to build good teams, and we focus so much on work, not only because it takes up 40 hours of our week each week, but also because we take pride in our work, right, Des? Would you agree with that?
No pride over here. Fuck it. No, I'm just kidding. No, we do. But I think something to add to that is not just that I take pride in my work and I want to be like the best at everything I do, which is just part of my character, but also that I'm trying to live, and I'm guessing this is true for you too, trying to live as a great example of what a good female manager looks like.
Yes.
Like it's almost like we have something to prove,
yeah.
I think, as women.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I feel like I'm doing my job to prove that when I do a good job in my role.
Yes.
So I'm showing the world like, no, look what women can do. And so I think part of the reason I work so hard is because I'm trying to prove something. But that doesn't necessarily bring me joy,
Yeah,
and that's not necessarily serving me.
That was going to be my point. We I think both of us go through seasons where we feel like really unfulfilled at work or really drained all the time after work, and you and I have talked about this before, how we seek validation, from our boss or from the work we do, the results we see. And I think you and I have both had many conversations before about this, how we feel like bad or invaluable or less than because we feel like we underperformed at work. And I think it's because, part of our identity rests within the work that we do, which is not super healthy. But just to circle back around to your point earlier, we have to find that thing that lights us up, that doesn't feel like work, so that we can put our identity in something that is who we truly are.
Exactly. Yeah, and too many times we are doing what we think we should do or what we think we have to do instead of doing, spending a little bit more time and really drilling down and saying like, okay, what brings me joy and how can I profit off of it? Because almost everything that exists you can make money off of it. You just have to find a way. And I don't know if regret's the right word, but maybe would have done it differently had I truly understood this sooner. And I know that so many people, as you're going through high school and college, there were a lot of good influences that said to me, find what you love and pursue that. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, a hippie. Like I'm gonna, I'm one of the things that I thought I needed to do was prove myself, because I was a first generation college student and I came from a very low income family, and I wanted to prove that I could be successful. I felt like I needed to show my family and myself that I could do anything. And so even though like there are different things that brought me more joy, like interior decorating and coaching gymnastics, I thought, no, I'm going to get not only into college, but I'm going to go to this esteemed business school and I'm going to get my degree and I'm going to get a job with a Fortune 100 company. And, and so I did all these things because I felt like I'm doing the right thing. I'm showing how successful I am. But that wasn't because managing a mall has always been my dream job, and I wake up in the morning like radiating with joy for doing it. Like, do I like my job most days? Yes, I do. But it's not the thing that really sets my heart on fire.
Right.
And it's something that I did because I felt like I should. And so looking back, like I said, I don't think I call it regret, but it's an interesting realization now. And to be able to say like, wow, I've learned so much, and I've taken this with me, and it's afforded me, I live in Hawaii. This is amazing. So it's been an amazing tool. But how many other people have been doing this?
Yeah. It's like everybody who, and either people like realize it and they don't know how to fix it and how to find that thing that they love that also makes them money outside of a 9-to-5 job, or they like haven't figured it out yet, and they just don't know why they're so unhappy. But I want it's just so true what Jay says. You are where you spend your most time, and we have to spend 40 hours. We have to spend 40 hours of our week at a job that we don't really love. At the end of the day, it doesn't really bring us joy, but I don't know. It's just mind blowing, when we sit down and actually talk about these things, and you're like, wow, like why have I let it get this far?
Yeah, like what's wrong with me? And but the thing is, like even with the realization, like even knowing it, do you see me like quitting my job tomorrow and just opening up a gymnastics facility?
You can't. No. You can't.
I would love to do that, but it takes so much bravery, and it takes balls, right? And it's gonna be a journey. I know I'll get there, right? But it's like why is it so hard to live as your truest self and to face, the potential for failure, right? Ooh, scary shit.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We have to take those risks if we want to get to where we want to be. I was listening to Tony Robbins talk the other day on a podcast, and he was talking about his journey and how he became such an influencer in today's self-development world and culture. And he talked about like a really rough time he went through. He was at rock bottom. He was broke, and he didn't have he was about to get evicted out of an apartment in New York, and he had no job, no money, and it was because of those moments, those high risk moments, no money, no food, no job, no shelter, nothing, is when he finally realized his true potential and what he needed to do in order to become the person he is today. So it's so then I'm starting to think, I'm like, so if I want to get X, Y, and Z, I probably have to do something that completely scares the shit out of me in order to get there. But I'm such a baby. I'm such a chicken because I want to have, shelter, money, food. Life doesn't seem possible without those things. And I'm not saying that that's the path I have to take in order to get what I want, but just the fact is you have to take a risk, a major, major risk that you would never, ever, ever do probably in a million years in order to be who you want to be at the end of it all,
It's fucking wild, dude. It's so wild. And I know this is true for you, and I know it's true for me. And this just goes to show how freaking scared we both are.
Yeah.
Listen to this. No, if you were to freaking fail where you couldn't even afford your house anymore, couldn't afford your food, couldn't afford your car, I don't know, would you have a place to stay with a roof over your head and food in your belly and probably a car to borrow? Would you or would you not?
I would.
You would. And the same is true for me. I know so many people who would be willing to take me in and just help me get back on my feet if I were to open up a gym and completely fail and go bankrupt. There's so many people that would have my back. And I know that for a fact.
Right.
And somehow still I'm too chicken shit to follow my dreams. And that won't be forever. I'm gonna lead by example, I promise. But isn't that crazy, Julie, that we both know that and still we're so afraid to fail?
Yeah.
What is that about?
Maybe it's because it's not truly part of our identity.
That's possible.
To be those major risk takers.
Okay, that's true. You can speak to, just the type of person you might be. Like your personality might not be willing to take that risk, or maybe in your personality you value the opinion of others too much, or maybe the right amount, whatever, but you're so worried about failing. That's possible too. Maybe you don't want others to see you fail. You don't want yourself to fail.
Right. Because you can't bear to think about what people may say about you, or what they may do, or how they may treat you.
Or what you think they'll think.
There we go again, inventing our narratives through the eyes of somebody else.
When someone else you have no idea. What if someone else's thoughts were, holy shit, like she did it and then she failed and she's fine and then she's going to get up and do it again. Like, what a great example for me. What if your failure is the greatest gift you can give to someone, because you can show them how you can get right back on your feet?
Yeah.
Like, what if truly it's the opposite of what we think?
Yeah. Dude, so true. It usually does end up working out like that. I mean, think about all the people that we admire. Not just like celebrities, but like, like let's take our podcasters, for example. They all had to make risks in order to become who they are right now. All of them tell their stories. Like, one of my podcasters risked like telling people about his past like sexual abuse. And he thought that like people were going to judge him, but he ended up opening up about it. And then like that vulnerability and that risk that he took made him connect more with his listeners. And then he became this super entrepreneur, and like Jay Shetty, he has a past. Rachel Hollis, I think I've heard her story before. One of her podcasts talk about how she was, she had like published a book, and like her main publisher was like, no, this is going to flop. Like, it's not going to, nobody's going to love this book. But she's like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to release this book. And she released it. And she became like a freaking superstar, like.
Yeah, that among some other challenges she's faced too. And
they're all inspiring, and it's like it's the formula for success. You have to be willing to, you have to identify with that, I think.
If you're willing to be yourself and take those risks on the things that make you happy, it's what actually connects us more than blending in and just trying to be like everyone else and just trying to hide your authentic self because you're afraid other people won't accept you. But I think the thing is, we're seeing and learning that people will accept you more if you are brave enough to just be yourself. Mm-hmm. That's the scary part.
Very scary. But I think something that makes it easier is maybe like defining what your values are. Just simply defining them and getting really close to who you are, like getting close to yourself, and then finding people slowly by surely who also share your same values and beliefs. I think that if you identify those values and then find the people that reflect them, I think you become that much more confident in who you are as an individual, and then maybe becoming vulnerable becomes that much easier. You know what I'm getting at right now?
Yeah, I think you're right. And you make sure to find the people who genuinely share your values and aren't just, saying that they do because they haven't yet found and pushed into their truest selves. But you're so right. And I think I talked about this in another episode, but if you are somebody who is a listener and you happen to be from our hometown of Elkhart and you happen to have gone to Central and you happen to have Mrs. Eldridge as a teacher, then you might remember doing the I believe statements. And as a senior, we were asked to do 100 belief statements, and all of them started with I believe. And at the time, I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I whipped them out in not too long of a time. And it was something I actually enjoyed. It was a project I looked forward to, and everybody kind of remembered that. And I encourage everyone to try to identify 100 things that you believe in. Because as an adult now, I tried it again, and I found that it was a lot harder. And I've been working on this, kind of just kept a running list the past couple of months. I still don't have 100. I don't have 100 things on there that I just feel that strongly about. And I think it is simply because, since high school, we've continually suppressed our real unique selves and our own beliefs. And we question ourselves and we wonder if how we feel or how we act or how we are is right. Mm-hmm. But there's no right version of you. And so I think everyone should try to do that. Try to write 100 I believe statements. Just keep a running list in your phone. See how many things that you can truly land on that you believe. And please tell us if you were able to come up with 100 or if you weren't, or if, what some of those things revealed to you. It'll be a fun exercise. It really will.
Oh, I'm going to do that. That is awesome. I don't think I had her class in high school, so I'm definitely going to try that. That's actually something I'm working on right now. I'm journaling. I did really bad this week because we opened the gym this week, but I'm journaling every day, something that I'm proud about of myself. And that's helping me become more in tune with who I am. I think I touched on this last episode.
Yeah.
And I've written things like, I'm proud of my financial habits or something like that, like something simple but specific. And it's like helping me like learn me, like learn my identity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Learning your strengths and your weaknesses and like what makes you proud and happy. And I've been doing the same exercise too. Thanks to your influence. I set an alarm in my phone for every day at 5:00 when I'm supposed to leave work. And it says, what are you proud of? And I stop right there, stop exactly whatever I'm doing. And I'm just like, okay, what did I do today? And I try to be very specific. What action did I do today that makes me proud? And it might be like, I'm really happy with how I handled this situation. Like this could have, I handled an angry customer or an angry tenant really well. Like I'm just proud of how professional I was today or something like that, and it's really, it's kind of like like an affirmation in a way, like a true affirmation. So it's a good way to help build the self-confidence and self-esteem. And both of those things help feed into your identity. Once you're really confident in who you are, you don't want to hide it. You're like, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
This me.
Yo, this me. Who you? This is me. New me. New me. Who's this?
Exactly.
Oh, dude, so much truth, so much wisdom. Oh, easier said than done, right?
Exactly. I'm still uncovering it and digging back out my childhood self. I think it was. When do you think you were your realest self?
My realest self?
Your most authentic Julie.
Back when I was a young girl, like ages, I don't know, 5 to 9, 5 to 10, before I learned about the world a little bit more, like playing roller hockey with my brothers, and every summer I'm like swimming at the lake and playing tag and like searching for turtles in the water and just having so much fun with the neighborhood kids. No inhibition, no worries, no responsibilities. Like, I was a big player. I love to play. I love to play every game: basketball, football, tag. We would take the boat out in the water. We would swim across the lake. We would search for turtles. We would go fishing. Like, I would go for walks in the woods. Like, all the stuff, all the fun stuff as that little kids do.
Little Exploradora, huh?
Yes, girl. Yes. And that was totally when I was myself, like truly myself. And then,
you know what I just realized when I said that just now? Dora the Explorer?
Yeah.
One of the things in the song for her intro is Exploradora. And
Really?
I just realized, like, all this time I thought it was like Explorer Dora, but obviously Exploradora is Spanish for a female explorer. So I'm
oh my god,
it's genius. This song.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
light bulb went off in your mind.
Exploradora.
Yeah. Yes. And then you like go to middle school and you like learn about makeup and like bras and like shaving your legs and how to be pretty with the other girls,
and teenage girl hormones make us all like judgmental and insecure and unsure with ourselves. And so there's just a lot of like, I feel like maybe 5th through 8th grade were just mean girl years on steroids, man. It was not a great time to be a chick. I imagine that's true for most girls that age, unless, I don't know if that was just a Northern Indiana thing, but I don't think so.
No. It's gotta be like a whole thing. But girl, what about you? When did you feel like your truest self?
I think around that same time, to be honest with you. I think maybe ages 6 through 10. is when we're just so much our real selves, but there's also so much about the world we don't know. So I think being real, but also having more of an idea about the world, it would still be a lot different than being a child. And of course, we're not going to be able to get rid of obligations unless you're just rich and can just go live on an island and do nothing. That would be great. But, there's parts that we're going to have to live with anyway. So how can we retain that unique version of ourselves without, without giving up all the things we have to do, right? And we still have those boundaries. I think I was pretty, still pretty real and authentic in high school. Like, I don't feel like I really changed who I was. I think I was learning how to suppress things that I didn't want to share with people. I think, like, as a young kid, I was always very much a class clown. I was like, like ADD, bouncing around, literally doing backflips off the swings, and like a kind of like a cocky, like, shit talker with sports, because I was like, athletic and did everything.
You're so competitive. Oh my gosh.
I am. But I think as I started to go through high school, and I realized, like, oh, people don't like when you're the class clown. Like, oh, people don't. I mean, I guess that started in middle school too. I was like super quiet, and I had watched a lot of movies and kind of was like, oh, like, this is how, like, teenage girls are supposed to behave, or, or whatever. And so I kind of lived through that instead of being the childish, really fun, like, goofy kid that I was.
Yeah.
So I mostly suppressed a lot of pieces of who I am instead of, like, completely changed. Like, it still lives within me, but it's kind of like, you'll never find me. Like, it's in there.
I'm hiding in the corner underneath the bed.
Yep.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I think if I tell a little bit more about my journey here, I think one thing that I learned going from a Catholic upbringing and Catholic grade in middle school and then coming to a public high school, one of my major life-changing moments was growing up Catholic and, like, going to church twice a week and, like, thinking it was the way everybody else lived their freaking life, and then moving into public school and seeing that, oh, wait, there are people of color in the world. There are people who like have fights in the cafeteria. There's like a girl's.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude. I think my first day walking into Central, I walked into the student center. And Big Reese. Do you remember Big Reese?
Yes, I do.
Dude, he like clocked somebody.
Puddle of blood.
Yeah, he clocked somebody right in the face and smashed him against one of the glass display cases, and there was blood and glass. Yeah. I was like, oh, first day of public high school. This is gonna be great.
Yes,
I was so scared. Oh my gosh, I was so scared.
I'm walking through the hall. Someone's like, "There's a gang fight in the student center." I'm like, "What's going on?"
What?
And I was just like, yeah, what a fun way to start high school. I'm so. That's so funny. We share that same memory. Dude. I didn't know that you also experienced that. Yeah. Like, I literally stepped in a little drip of blood on the floor, and I looked around. I'm like, oh.
Yes. And so, I mean, while some of the things I learned being outside of my little Catholic bubble were negative, it just proved in me that, like, the way that I was living and the way that I was growing up was not the only way. And that's when I truly started to not suppress, maybe suppress some of the things that I learned being so Catholic, and really becoming myself in a way in those high school years. But wow. Yeah. What a crazy experience that was. I will never forget that day, that first day of high school, coming from my little Catholic school where nothing like that ever happened. There were no fights. There was no blood. There was no glass display cases shattered everywhere in the student center. Everybody, was in line. We had church twice a week. We had religion classes. Everybody wore the same uniform. Uh-huh. We had the same recess, the same lunchtime, like it was like a little bubble going to Catholic school.
And it's funny because you're right across the street from
Literally right across the street from a big public middle school.
That I went to. Yeah. So we'd always look at you guys in your uniforms at the playground and be like, look at those kids. And like, yeah. And you guys were probably like, they need Jesus. And we were probably like, look at those nerds.
Oh, those public schools. I heard that they smoke weed on their lunch breaks.
That's what we were doing. That's what we were all smoking pot on the lunch breaks.
Oh, gosh. It's so funny, dude. It is so funny. Ugh. You
were saying something though about for other people who had gone to Catholic school before I started interrupting.
Yeah, if you grew up in the Catholic faith with really strict Catholic parents and you went to Catholic school, I know you know what I'm talking about. So it's funny.
And you had the awakening, right? And that's why
the awakening, girl.
Exactly. I feel like you see so many of the kids that come out of the Catholic school, whether it's to go to high school or to go to college, they go freaking wild. You're like, yo, dude, what happened to Jessica, man? She is having a lot of fun, man. Yeah. She's exposed to things that she wouldn't have dreamed of being exposed to before. And yeah, that's funny when people kind of it's funny to me sometimes to see some of the kids come out of Catholic school and they're like, a whole new world,
right,
fantastic point of view, and it's just like.
Yeah, dude, it's because growing up in that Catholic way and the religion, it doesn't really teach you how to handle real life stuff. It's like sexual education is don't have sex. It doesn't teach you about birth control and using condoms and this and that. Mm-hmm. It's just don't have sex or you'll go to hell.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it.
Meanwhile, so over at Northside, they're showing us pictures and this is what it looks like when you get chlamydia. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. And then the Catholic school kids, they enter the real world of life and they're like, oh, whoa, I don't know how to navigate this, but it looks fun. Right? Let's freaking try it out.
I'm feeling hormonal. Yeah. What am I going to do about this?
Oh gosh, it is wild. It is so wild. But, and that's not everybody, I'm sure, has that experience. There are some Catholic kids who get out of Catholic school and they have a really strong foundation, really strong faith, and, they find fulfillment in being Catholic and following the rituals and the faith and all that, which is great. If it works for them, it works for them.
To each his own.
Not everybody turns out like Jessica.
Yeah.
But, it just, in my experience, it was very bubble-ish. It was just I was living in a bubble for the first 13 years of my life.
And then you awoke.
Then I was awakened.
She was. She got woke. Julie got woke.
I got woke. And then I stayed woke.
She came to high school and ran that bitch.
Literally every person we went to high school with has 7 kids except for you.
I know. I'm how many kids do you have? Oh, you have. Okay, great.
Oh, you have 3? 1 on the way? Oh, yeah. I have 2 cats. That's what I got going on.
No. And I don't mean that so in any type of way. All I'm saying is every time I get on social media, a new person is pregnant or something, and I'm like, what? I'm just I still feel like. In my head, in my head, we're not the age that we are. And so I'm like, this is totally a normal time for people to be having kids. But I'm like, pregnant at 28? Who the fuck does she think she is? The audacity. Seriously. And then I'm like, oh yeah, man, we're getting up there.
We're almost 30.
Yeah. Ugh.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I wonder if that is a break in our identity that you and I, we don't, because I would say, because you just said something, how you feel you're in your head, you're not as old as your age is. Yeah. And I feel the same way. I'm when people ask how old am I, I'm oh, I'm 28. I'm 28? I feel like I'm 24? I don't know, less than 28, 23, 25, and I don't know. It's just weird. But I wonder if I don't know, is that a bad thing or a good thing?
I don't know, because I would say I have the maturity of easily a 45-year-old man, for sure. But, or beyond that. So,
oh, yeah.
But I just mean to say, so far as, okay, here's what it is. It's the suggested life path, right? I always thought I'll be married by 24 and I'll have kids by 27. And I had this path, this idea of what life was supposed to look like when I was much younger and naive. And now I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, absolutely not. Like, I'm like, how old is too old to have kids? Can I have a kid at 47? Like, is that okay? Because I'm in.
Right.
I'm in. And
I'm in
at that
like point, yeah.
my life path, it looks a lot different than what I thought it would, because I was living off what I thought it should look like. And realistically, I envision what it can look like. And I'm like, this is more up my alley, like, I'm not ready to give up my own personal freedoms, and not travel the world and drink beer whenever I want. And like, there's just so much I still want for myself. So I think I've released the path, the should path that I was living under before. So now, like, that's why I kind of surprise myself when I'm like, oh, I'm 28 next month, and my life looks so much different than the path I had planned out, but I'm not upset about it in any way. It just surprises me, when I think about it.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you have like a path like that? Like that you thought you were going to live?
No, actually, I never did. And I don't know why, but I always remember people talking about, I'm going to get married at this stage, and I'm going to have this kind of man, and I'm going to have this many kids and this house and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, at like 15, 16, like, how the fuck do you know all that? Like, I don't even know what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight. Like, and in many ways I'm still like that. I'm like, what do I really want? Like, how do I define what I really want out of life at 28 years old? And why do I still not really like know what it is yet? And that's another big reason why I wanted to have this episode today, because I haven't really paused over the last like 9 years to get to know myself on a deep level that allows me to figure out what I really want and what path I want to create now at this point in my life. Because it's like, now or never, Julie. Like, time is ticking. You're 28, almost 30. Like, you got to do something. You got to do something that is who you are. So it's time to start writing down things that you're proud of. It's time to start doing your self-affirmations. It's time to start meditating. It's time to start reflecting. It's time to start to really get to know who you are, Julie. Otherwise, you'll just be living this aimless life and working a 9-to-5 job that doesn't make you happy, and like
going through the motions and doing what you think you should do, not what you really want to do.
Right.
Like, YOLO is real, man.
YOLO.
Yo, the fucking low, man.
We talked about the foundation. We talked about locating your identity, asking those questions, and talking about where your attention is, right? And now the second part of the pyramid is beliefs. And you and I, we did discuss this just a few, within our tangent. The next thing you're going to want to do is define your values and your beliefs. So you're going to want to
do the belief statements.
Do the belief statements. Yeah, like we said, do those belief statements. Or the way I define my values is through an exercise we did at work. So I work for Planet Fitness, and Planet Fitness's leadership model resembles John Maxwell's teaching. They love John Maxwell. They literally are obsessed with John Maxwell. So we learn all about John Maxwell at Planet Fitness. And John Maxwell has these values cards, and it's literally like a deck of like 52 cards, and each card has a value on it and the definition of the value. And the exercise is you look through each card and you take the values that really resonate with you and you put them in pile A. And then some of the values in the deck are going to be like, I could give or take that. Sometimes I feel that way, sometimes I don't. Those are going to go in pile B. So you're going to have two piles when you're done with this exercise. Then you're going to take pile A and you're going to whittle down pile A to your top 10. And then you're going to get it down to your top 5 and then eventually your top 3. So this exercise actually that I did like 2 years ago is how I actually learned about values. Like, you have always like heard, throughout the years, like, oh, what are your values, or what do you value? And like, these are the company values and this is the family values and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, what are values? Like, how do I, like, what are they?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like the first opportunity I had where I was like, oh, values, this is what they mean, or this is what people are talking about, and So that helped me define my values at that point. And I wonder if there's like an online like deck that we could like link up in the show notes. I'm sure there's like an online values deck exercise that you could look into. So I'll do some research and I'll link it up in the show notes
for sure
for you to try.
And don't forget to just look at your bank account, like we talked about earlier.
Yes.
Where are you spending your time? What's on your agenda? And what is what if you bank with Chase, they'll break down your spending into categories for you on each of your credit cards and your checking, which I find to be super helpful. So you can go like, oh, I spend a lot of money at restaurants, or like I spend a lot of money on fashion or travel or home renovation. So look at where you're spending your time and your money, and that will probably indicate to you what you value.
Be honest with your values. Because I remember when I first did this exercise at work, I chose values that everybody else chose because I wanted to fit in. And that's not the point. Yeah, dude. That's not the point of, like, okay, here's an example. Everybody, because then we chose our values, and then we were going around and we were explaining our top value to the whole group. And everybody's like, oh, family, faith, family, family, faith. And like that was everybody's top value. And I was looking at mine. I'm like, I've got wealth, I've got change, I've got growth, I've got X, Y, and Z, but none of them had faith and family in there. And I'm like, uh-oh, people are going to judge me if I don't.
People are going to think I don't give a shit about my family.
Right. People are going to think I don't give a shit about my family, or I'm not faithful, or I'm not religious or spiritual or whatever. And so I went back in and I chose one that everybody else, it was like similar to everybody else's, but I made it my own. But I'm like, Julie, that's like not even the point. Like, you have to figure out what you honestly believe in and what you really value. So be honest with yourself. Don't choose values just because your friend or your neighbor or your mom or your dad has the value. Figure out what you value.
So true. Thank you for sharing that, Julie. And I love that you're able to like laugh at yourself now for making that decision, instead of ignoring that you changed it to fit in.
Exactly. So after you determine those values and your beliefs, the next big part about this step is you have to drop your limiting beliefs. So just as you need to figure out the things that you believe in, you have to eliminate the things that hold you back from believing in yourself. So for instance, you can't say things to yourself like, I'm not worthy, or I'm not funny, or I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or I could never do that thing because I don't have the tools, or I don't have the personality traits. I could never speak in front of a group of people. I could never buy that business. I could never do this. I could never dunk the basketball. You can't say those things to yourself because you'll never, ever achieve those things then. So you have to define your beliefs and then drop those limiting beliefs so you can really feel the full power of who you are.
Eliminate the word can't from your vocabulary.
Or
my
don't.
Gymnastics coach, or should is a good one to get rid of as well. But my gymnastics coach when I was little, if you said can't, she would make you run laps.
Really?
Yeah, you do not say can't. And I've stuck to that value too. I don't know necessarily that running is the proper punishment to help the child realize why they shouldn't say can't, but maybe if you say I can't do something, maybe you stop and you say 10 times in your head or out loud, I can do that very same thing.
I love that.
Just to counter that limiting self-belief.
Dude, I love that. Similar to that, you just made me think about something. My high school basketball coach, our slogan for junior year season was no excuses, just results. And he would always harp on that in practice. And I have
Matt, what was his name?
I don't remember his name. He was
our math teacher, right?
No. My basketball coach.
Mr. Windy.
No, not Mr. Windy. He was the guy who came after Mr. Windy.
Okay.
I forget his name. He was a tall, old black dude. He had coached like at Concord or something and came over.
Oh, it's going to come to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he would always say, no excuses, just results. And that has always stuck with me my entire life. So similar to you, if I'm working out, for example, and I feel myself begin to fail on my last push-up or something, I'm like, no excuses, just results, Julie, keep pushing, keep going. And then I pump out a few more, and I'm proud of myself. But
yes.
Dude,
love
funny
that.
how things stay with us.
It is.
Okay, so then the next part of the triangle, after we have figured out our beliefs, we're going to move up into capabilities. Okay, so now, first of all, the definition of capability is the ability or power to do something. Okay, so you've defined who you want to be at your identity level. You've defined your values and your beliefs. Now it's time to start building the capabilities to reflect your identity. So let's use an example of wanting to become an avid or consistent exerciser. You want to adopt a new exercise routine. You want to start a healthier lifestyle, okay? So in order to identify with somebody who consistently exercises, you at this capability level will have to figure out, first of all, what exercise routine you want to start. You're going to have to start researching and practicing the techniques or the form that is required to safely perform the exercise. You might want to find a friend or a group of people who value the same exercise routine as you so you can sustain accountability. You want to create a plan to execute your new routine, and you're going to want to include the amount of time that you're going to do this exercise, the amount of days you want to exercise, and then you just have to begin exercising. You have to start building your capability to exercise.
And make it part of your identity. It kind of circles back around. And my mom and I have been working out every day, like lunch for me and when she gets off work for her. And she's been kicking ass at it. Well, one of the things I told her that she's been fully embracing is, I said, we're not going on a diet. We're not just working out until you get to a goal weight. This is a lifestyle. Like if we're going to do this together, this is part of your identity. Who I am is someone who works out regularly and eats healthy and is working on getting rid of some of the bad habits that I have. And she has literally made it a lifestyle, made it who she is. And that's what makes it effective. If it's just something you're temporarily doing and you're not embracing fully, then you're not going to be as successful. But if you say like, no, this is who I am now. I'm someone who works out regularly and I take care of myself. Now you're much more likely to follow through with it because it's part of you.
Exactly. And you should also find a way to track the progress you're making because that will keep you on track and you will be able to see your progress over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a way to measure
motivator. Yeah.
Exactly. Like your weight or your reps or something like that.
Yeah.
So then just to finish up the last two parts here of the triangle, the next part, after you've created those capabilities, you then move into creating behaviors. Capabilities create behaviors. And the behaviors are a really good indicator of who we are on the inside and how we think of ourselves or like how we identify with certain things. So, like, for example, just going back to that exercise example, somebody who consistently exercises behaves in a certain way. They eat healthy every single day. They drink a lot of water. They stretch. They go on walks. They have an exercise routine. They have a gym membership. They go to the gym every day. Like they behave in a certain way. So you have to begin behaving in a way that is consistent with this identity change. And usually it does take quite a bit of time to develop a behavior. According to healthline.com, it can take anywhere from 18 to 254 days for a habit or a capability to become a behavior. So consistency is key. Pushing yourself to be uncomfortable and to grow every day is key. And eventually, though, getting back to the exercise example, exercise will naturally just become a part of your life. You will start to exercise every day on autopilot without noticing because it's become a part of your behavioral repertoire. It's become who you are.
We all know those people that you just think of them if you're just like, okay, who's like my health nut friend, like who's like my fitness friend. Right. We all know we have those people, and the thing is, they made health and fitness part of their identity, and it's like that came first and all the other stuff came after. But sometimes we forget like that they are so healthy and so fit because they chose to make it part of their identity. Right. So do you just want to be skinny for other people, or do you want to make this part of yourself? Do you want to be fit? Do you want to live a long life? Like what are you doing it for?
Right.
And if you can attach a stronger emotion to that, and make it part of your identity, it's going to be more effective.
Absolutely. And then last but not least, the top of your pyramid and the smallest area is your environment. So, lastly, in order to change your identity, once you get to the end of that journey, you have to change your environment to reflect your new identity. And this sometimes may just occur naturally, like without you even realizing it, or sometimes you might have to put effort into it. So, again, going back to that exercising routine, if you're now consistently exercising, you're probably going to want to be around people who value exercising. You might have to stop hanging out with your friend who doesn't take care of themselves, or you will have to start eating healthy on a consistent basis, or you might have to change the layout of your apartment if you need more room to exercise at home, or you might have to join a different gym or create a gym in a spare bedroom. You have to create the environment that supports your newfound identity and your newfound behaviors and capabilities.
Either newfound or just, rediscovered, because it might just be hiding in there and just been suppressed all this time, and it's just waiting to glow. It's just waiting to radiate out into the world, but you've been hiding it all this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so to wrap up the triangle, just to bring it all back together, again, the bottom of the pyramid in the triangle is your identity. That's your foundation. And then from identity, you move into values and beliefs. And then after you get through values and beliefs, you move up to creating capabilities. And then after that, those capabilities make or create new behaviors. And then at the top, you have your environment that you have to change. And again, like I said earlier, you can use this pyramid to work from top to bottom or bottom to top. It depends on if you're wanting to change a part of your identity that you've already determined or singled out, or if you want to get to know yourself a little bit more. You look at your environment first and you work your way down, and you finally end up getting to your identity. So it could work either way. And Des, I wanted to ask you, now that we've learned about this triangle of identity, what is one thing that you're either working on right now, either like in changing your identity or creating something new about your identity?
Well, I think I'm going to share two things. You want one? I'm going to give you two. All right. It's two
Okay.
for the price of one today.
Okay.
So two ways. And one I thought might be a really helpful example for a lot of people. And that's when you're in a committed relationship with someone, especially if you live with them and your daily lives are integrated, sometimes we can allow that integration to have us become a we instead of a me. So our own identity can kind of be shadowed or suppressed, or maybe one partner's life, it dictates more of what both people do. And so I just want to caution everyone to not letting yourself get in too deep with your identity becoming part of your partner's, or your identity becoming suppressed, so that your partner shines through. So there doesn't have to be conflict in that. Just make sure that you're not letting yourself fade away and get lost in the relationship. And you continue to connect with people you love. You continue to do hobbies that you love. That means even if your partner doesn't enjoy them, you still indulge in them. So I make sure not to fall in that trap. I'm really lucky that John and I share a lot of the same interests. But there are some things that he likes to that I don't, and vice versa. And so, he doesn't necessarily like gardening, and I wish he did. I want to spend time with him doing that, but I could choose to just not do it because he doesn't like it. Or I could say, you know what? He's going to do something he loves. He's going to play a video game or play his bass, and I'm going to go do something I love. So just find a time to make sure you don't lose yourself in the relationship. And yes.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Have you done that before?
Oh yeah, like I was touching on earlier, my last relationship, I felt like I didn't, like, remember I told you I came out of it like not knowing who I was at the end of it, and not like, because we did a lot of the things I wanted to do. Like, he was very amenable to like the fun things I found to do as opposed to what he wanted to do, which was great, but then like he was always like attached to me, if you will. Like he was never like choosing to do things that he wanted to do, or he was never aware of like just the fact that he could do something without me. Like we always wanted to be with each other, and it's at the beginning it was fine, but then you do that all the time and you're like, this is not really how I want to have a relationship with somebody, and I felt like I lost myself in that. So,
which is so interesting,
we are not
he's
together
the one
anymore.
who was suppressing his identity more so, it sounds like. But that can be boring too, because you're like, okay, now I'm just dating myself or someone who wants to do everything I do, and like, I'm awesome,
right? Like I want to learn about you and what you want.
I want to date you and your unique person, and that's what I fell in love with. But now you've just agreed to just do everything I do all the time, and that's kind of boring. Right. Yeah. So that's one of the things.
Exactly.
And then the other thing is for me, just being more real on like social media and in real life, and sharing with my employees who I am and what I do outside of work, and sharing with my friends and family on social media. Like, yeah, here's some things you didn't know about me. Like, here's some things I do, but maybe have been afraid to share or something, or, worried to fail or something. So just being more real and raw, and letting my uniqueness shine through.
I love that. You have been posting some really good stuff on some really good content on your social media, girl. Getting real vulnerable, really, really like raw and open to everybody. So it's been good. I see a lot of positive like feedback and comments towards you from that.
Thank you.
So
it's
good
a journey.
job.
It's a journey.
Great. Yeah.
Yes. So
sure is.
So the main takeaways from this episode about identity is that we hope you are looking for your truest self all the time, and being reflective and asking yourself, am I doing this for me? What brings me joy? What do I value? What am I surrounding myself with? Who am I surrounding myself with? How might I be losing my identity in my job or in my relationship or in my title? Maybe you lose your identity in the fact that you're a mother, and you become so much a mother that you forget, what makes you you, and that you're more than a mother. So I hope that everyone, has a greater understanding in the ways we might be suffocating ourselves, our real selves. And I hope that everyone's looking for the strength to worry less about standing out and feeling alone, and worry more about living a life as their most true, fulfilled, unique self.
Yes. There's nobody else like you in this world. And that's why you are here, because you have a set of unique behaviors and characteristics and traits and skills and goals that you are supposed to find and create this life that identifies with who you truly are at the end of the day. So don't let yourself be distracted by what somebody else is doing or somebody else's definition of success. Find what makes you thrive. Find what makes you light up. Find what makes you get those little butterflies in your stomach when you're doing it. That's the stuff that is who you should identify with.
Exactly.
And I hope that this message and this episode today helps you figure out where you are in your journey, and just helps you figure out your next step if you're looking for the next step, or hopefully that maybe this will give you a sign, and like maybe you were feeling like you needed to do something different but you didn't quite know what it was. Maybe this episode will enlighten you to what you need to do now. Des and I hope we can help impact your life in that way.
Yes, and we will never judge you, and we'll always accept you, and we applaud you for being brave and having the big kahunas and going out there. Yes, and just trying to be who you are, who you want to be, who your child self would be proud of, who your 90-year-old self would be proud of. It's just someone you want to live your life as, because it's YOLO, you guys.
YOLO, man. I love it.
YOLO.
Go on and blaze that trail to identifying who you are.
Live your life, yo.
Go on.
Go on now. Go on now.
Thank you so much for listening today, everybody. We really appreciate all the love and support. And it would really help us if you were to go leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us a rating. Give us some comments and feedback. Everybody's been really great about reaching out in our DMs with feedback or texting us. But reviews would really, really help us, guys. Des and I were trying to change the world with this podcast, and we need some more visibility. We'll need some more downloads. So if you leave reviews, give us a rating. We would really tell a friend. Yes, share it. We would really, really appreciate it, guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you for giving us a voice, and please let us know how this helped you.
Blaze that trail.
Bye. Bye, Felicia.
Bye.